Hey, what is going on, everybody? It is your boy French here with the French-Hoock connection. With me, as always, is my wonderful co-host Andrew Hook.
What's up, guys?
What's going on, guys? So today we're going to be doing a week in review from May 21st to May 26th. We would have included the 20th, but the game got delayed due to inclement weather. So basically, how this pod is going to go, we're going to go through day by day with the Yankees, talk about specific headlines. I'm going to run through like the game notes, what I have from those. Andrew's going to talk a little bit more about injuries and other headlines. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. So the first game against the White Sox, the Yankees won it 7-5. This was May 21st, last Saturday. This is the first of the two Nestor Cortes games that we're going to be talking about. He pitched 5 innings with 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, no walks. He did strike out the side in the first inning, which was pretty cool. The losing pitcher of the game was Dallas Keuchel, who went only 4 deep, 6 hits, 6 earned, 0 strikeouts, and 3 walks, which is pretty impressive for us to not strike out at all. Going to Michael King, his second bad outing of the season. He made it 1 inning. He gave up 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 strikeout, 1 walk. But then the Yankee bullpen after King was absolutely dominant. Loaiza, Castro, Holmes, 3 innings pitched, only 2 hits, 0 earned, 6 strikeouts, 0 walks. It was pretty crazy to watch us shut down the White Sox offense like that. The big story for the White Sox, though, was Jose Abreu with a 3-run home run back in the 3rd inning off of Cortes. That was the only reason Cortes gave up earned runs. ERA at this point in the year is still under like 1.4. And then after that, Larry Garcia and Josh Harrison each had an RBI double in the game. Then moving on to the Yankee offense, IKF. He went 1 for 4 in the game with an RBI single in the second. And then shortly after that, DJ LeMahieu, he went 1 for 4 on the day. He had a grand slam in the second inning, which really blew things open. And then throughout the game, Donaldson and Rizzo each had a couple of sacrifice hits to bring in some runs. So outside of that, I mean, offense wasn't super crazy for us outside of the DJ LeMahieu grand slam, but a great pitching battle pretty much for both teams, like bullpen wise. And yeah, let's go to Andrew for the other things. Let's go to Drew's news for the first game in this video.
Don't ever say that again. So first thing to point out before we get to the big story of the game, and actually the biggest story of the week for baseball is Chad Green being placed on the IL. He's done for the year. He's going to be getting Tommy John surgery. So he's deactivated. Biggest loss for the Yankees as of right now, in my opinion. I think he brings in an outlet from the bullpen that we need as an 8th inning guy or 7th inning guys before Chapman and Holmes. So definitely the biggest loss in that regard. Hopefully for a good recovery for Chad Green. Hopefully he comes out of it stronger. Now here comes the big headline of the week. Not the proudest storyline for anyone in this situation. And if you don't know what we're talking about, the Donaldson-Anderson confrontation from the White Sox and the Yankees series. Basically, what happened was top of the 4th when Anderson and Donaldson were heading back to the benches. Donaldson made a remark saying, "Nice job, Jackie." And Anderson took offense to that. And he said some pretty kind words to Donaldson, saying that he was offended about that. And then after the confrontation, Donaldson went up to the at-bat in the bottom of the 4th. Rondell said something to Donaldson, and Donaldson did not like that at all. And the bench was cleared from both sides, and not just both sides from the benches, but also the bullpens as well. So the situation was pretty upscale in intensity. It got out of hand pretty quickly, and warnings were issued to the White Sox bench, to the Yankees bench. If there's any other confrontation like that, they were just going to eject players from here on forward. And that's really it. And then the story continued on Sunday on ESPN, and that was like the big talking point about it. Painted shots between Donaldson and Anderson. So it was like the biggest focal point of all baseball at that time.
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable that Donaldson would even think to say that, honestly. So basically the whole signal with it was Donaldson had claimed that a couple years ago, Anderson had referred to himself as like the next Jackie Robinson. So Donaldson was making a comment kind of towards that. But Anderson took offense, kind of like, we're not friends. Like, you can't be like saying that stuff because, any sort of comment that you might not think is, coming off as, hatred or racist or anything like that, someone else could pick it up as that. So I think that while it could have been a misunderstanding, Donaldson definitely shouldn't have said it. Both Boone and Aaron Judge, I felt like, handled the situation very well. Boone had said he probably shouldn't have said anything. And Judge had approached it like, it's not very good for baseball. He didn't really defend Donaldson, but he didn't throw him under the bus. He said it's not something we should say. Hopefully we can just, get past it, move on to the next game. Donaldson apologized. So it was pretty class for Judge to say that as an African-American male, not to like outright defend his teammate, but also, show that it shouldn't just be overlooked. A few days later, I did see that Donaldson released a one of those iNotes messages on social media, like sort of like an apology towards Anderson and whatnot. So I don't think the situation is really cleared, but I think we can move on from now. But it's very clear that Tim Anderson and Josh Donaldson will not be meeting anytime soon.
No, they're not getting lunch anytime soon in New York City or Southside Chicago. But I think Donaldson, he handled the situation professionally as well. He was willing to have an open conversation with Anderson. We don't know if the conversation took place, but I think it was very wise of him to say, hey, Anderson, I'm willing to listen. If you had a problem with what I said, I'm willing to listen. And then I also want to bring up, too, that Donaldson, we all know what kind of player he is. It wasn't, I don't think it, in my own opinion, I don't think it was regarded as like a racist remark. I think it was just, in a game of baseball, it's very competitive advantage, and we're going to, chew each other out of what we said in the past. That's how I look at Donaldson. He's the type of guy that, and former players would say this about him, his former teammates, that he's the type of guy that will, poke the bear in these players and get in their heads. So I'm not shocked that he would say something like that. But then again, it's pretty, I don't want to say unprofessional because this is kind of the player that Donaldson is. But maybe went over the line in this at that moment, in my opinion.
No, it's all right. I definitely agree with that. But also, I mean, sort of the same thing with Tim Anderson. He's also a very competitive player. Multiple times in the past, he's outright disrespected the owner of the Chicago White Sox. He's very, very vocal on Twitter saying things, and he's a very outspoken guy. Definitely. But why is my Siri going off? Anyways, it doesn't give Donaldson the right to say any sort of thing like that. And while it wasn't intended to be racist, we can definitely see why Anderson would get heated. Would the situation have been differently had it not been Tim Anderson? I don't know. It probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't Tim Anderson, because I think Donaldson was just referring to something that Anderson had said in the past, but which is understandable because of how outspoken Anderson. It sounds like something Anderson would say, like comparing himself to the next Jackie Robinson. Definitely. Because I mean, he is a very, very, very good player. He's hitting over 330, I think, still.
Yeah, he's definitely having his best year of his career by far.
Which is saying a lot because he's had very, very good seasons the past few years.
Definitely. Oh yeah, definitely an efficient hitter. And I think another thing I want to bring up too about the Anderson situation is that this wasn't the first time that someone made a remark about Anderson's comments about being the next Jackie Robinson. A couple of years ago, the Chicago Cubs said the exact same thing. They're like, "Oh, you're the next Jackie Robinson," blah blah blah. Anderson took offense to that, so it wasn't like it was a one-time show. This has been a recurrent thing that's happened before. Just because like North Side, South Side Chicago, they're pretty big rivals, even if they're not in the same conference as one another. So I also wanted to bring that up as well.
No, 100%. I think overall it wasn't very, very good for baseball, but I think it's definitely not so bad that we can't move on from it. I think it's definitely at a point where it can be like, okay, this happened. Donaldson got his 1-game suspension. Let's move on, switch gears. Let's not do things like that again.
Right.
So another thing, though, I think that things that happen on the field, I think this sets a new standard for that in terms of suspensions. So I feel like there's a lot of stuff that happens under the radar that are just not brought up at all in terms of what baseball players say to each other in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
So does this mean that, more guys are going to get suspended for a game for saying things verbally? Or I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Andrew? Because I heard that on the Michael K show the other day. I was curious to what you thought.
I mean, it's definitely sends out a message to the players that might even say some sort of remark like that. But honestly, I think just because of how it's kind of like there's many layers into the situation of like how people would like take that information like Anderson did. I mean, if it was like one thing where if, if let's say Cole was comparing himself to Roger Clemens and he took offense to that, I don't know if like someone would get suspended for someone that's like showing him up like that per se, or like trash talking to Cole. I'm not too sure. I think it's just part of the game is, talking crap towards one another. It's a competitive game after all, just like any other sport. But it does definitely bring out a message from the league that they don't tolerate those sort of remarks from to another player, especially if they're African American. But here on fourth, I think people are gonna be a little bit more careful what they say.
I think the context is extremely important when considering this, and I hope that MLB doesn't go like trigger happy with suspensions.
I hope so not either. Yeah.
This almost reminds me of. Do you remember a few years ago the Yuli Gurriel situation with Darvish? I think Yuli Gurriel,
Yes.
he had made I don't really want to do it because it's terrible, but like he did like an Asian sort of impression in his words, where he like slanted his eyes like purposely after I think he hit a home run off of Darvish or something like that.
Yeah.
And he got suspended a few games. So
I do remember that actually. Yeah, that was quite a bit ago. Was it like 2019, 2020 around there?
something like that.
Yeah,
I think it was like
I do
2018 or 19.
I do remember that. Yeah, and the league suspended him for I think 2 or maybe 3 games about that. I mean, yeah, definitely inappropriate. Not no. There's no place or time to do anything like that to another player, especially if they're a different race from one another.
Absolutely. I think that in terms of these suspensions, MLB's got to know the difference between, oh, you suck or versions of that, and doing something that's just complete hate speech or racism. Like, I just hope that this situation doesn't create a new standard for what deserves a suspension. I really hope they don't start suspending a bunch of guys because there's a lot of talk that happens on that field.
Oh yeah, no.
So I hope
baseball,
people aren't like, oh, he said this about me, but it's really not that bad. Like, oh, well, we gave Donaldson a suspension. We have to suspend this guy now. Like, I just don't think.
Yeah, I mean, like from like our experience, I don't know about yours for like town league baseball or travel baseball, but like there's crap talk from one player to another. I've had my fair share of crap talking to one player or someone crap talk to me. It's just part of the game, and there's no way around it. It's just how it is. I guess like the only thing that we can learn from this whole situation is just be a little bit more careful how you say things or what you're going to say, especially if it's like towards another race.
Definitely.
All right.
So. I think we've talked quite a bit on that issue. We definitely had to address it because it was one of the biggest things that's happened all season long. It's unfortunate. It's not great for the game, but hopefully stuff like that doesn't continue to happen.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next thing. So May 22nd, we had a doubleheader. This was on Sunday against the White Sox. Game 1, the White Sox won 3-1. It was Jameson Taillon versus Johnny Cueto. Taillon went 7 innings deep, 5 hits, just 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, and 1 walk. That was by far, honestly, it was one of the best starts of his career with the Yankees. Cueto pitched for the White Sox. He went 6 deep, 6 hits, no earned runs, 5 strikeouts, and 2 walks. The big story of the game, though, from pitching-wise, was Aroldis Chapman. He only made it 1 out in the 9th inning, gave up 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 0 strikeouts, and a walk, and then he was pulled. For the White Sox, Graveman and Hendricks pitched. Graveman got the win. Hendricks got the save. 2 innings pitched in the eighth and the ninth. Gave up 2 hits, 1 earned run, 2 strikeouts, and a walk. Offensively for Chicago, Grandal had an RBI single in the 4th. For the Yankees, Aaron Judge went 3 for 4 with a solo home run off of Graveman in the 8th. That was the only run for the Yankees in this game. And then in the 9th, A.J. Pollock hit a solo home run off of Chapman. And then shortly after, Adam Engel hit an RBI double off of Chapman. And that would do it pretty much for offense and pitching. That game wasn't too crazy. It was just like a couple of instances like that. So then shortly after that game, Gallo and Higgy headed to the COVID-19 IL. And then game 2, Chicago won 5-0. Andrew and I were actually at the bar watching this game for the majority of it. We saw 8 pretty much scoreless innings. So Severino versus Kopech. Severino with a no decision went 7 deep, 8 hits, no earned, 5 Ks, no walks. That really showed us some good shades of Severino of his past, which was very, very fun to see. Michael Kopech pitched 7 innings. He got the win, just gave up 1 hit, 2 walks, no earned runs, and he struck out 6. Jonathan Loaizaga, though, was the bad highlight for the Yankees that game. 0.2 innings pitched, 4 hits, 4 earned, 1 strikeout, no walks. For Chicago offensively, Andrew Vaughn with an RBI single off of Loaizaga. Reese McGuire with an RBI single off of Loaizaga, both in the 8th. And then shortly after, Miguel Castro came in for the Yankees and then gave up a 3-run home run to the guy we were just talking about, who was Tim Anderson. So that's kind of like the highlights from the doubleheader on Sunday. Andrew, take it away.
Okay, so a lot happened with the doubleheader that's happened. So first and foremost, you just already brought it up. Joey Gallo, Josh Donaldson, and Kyle Higashioka were placed in the COVID-19 list. And then they're out for quite a little bit, probably like a couple of days from that. Gallo came back, I think, around the 26th, 27th, around there. And that's pretty much it. And then another big, side of news is that Esteban Florio was called up from Scranton. And I know you're pretty big on Florio as a prospect and being part of the Yankees organization. So I figured that I would bring that up as well. But during the game of the first game, Chapman was pulled, and yeah, he was having a bad performance, but also he left the game with a left knee problem in the first. He said he was dealing with some swelling. So on the next day, after the doubleheader, he was officially placed on the 15-day IL due to left Achilles tendonitis. So, hopefully Chapman makes a fast recovery, because we could use his good games as well, even if he has some bad games. And then in the second game, Loaizaga, once again, same concept with Chapman, had a really bad outing, probably his worst outing I've seen him in quite a long time, honestly. After he was being pulled for his worst performance, Loaizaga mentioned to Boone that he felt a pop in his right shoulder, and Boone just automatically decided let's just put him in the 15-day IL. So that's exactly what happened. So he's in the IL for shoulder inflation for 15 days. My bad, I butchered that pretty badly. But besides that, though, that's really it.
Yeah, so this was pretty much the first instance of a lot of Yankees getting hurt. Chad Green getting Tommy John, I think the day before it was announced. Or was it announced Sunday morning? I can't remember. Was it Saturday?
That was announced Sunday morning. Yeah.
Sunday morning. Yeah, it was announced Sunday morning. So we're like, okay, there's a big loss. Mm-hmm. And then after that second game, Chapman leaving, going down on the IL, and then Loaizaga leaving, going on the IL. That's 3 pieces of our bullpen. 4, including Zach Britton, who's supposed to return at this year. So yeah. Green is going to be gone for the year. But losing Loaizaga and Chapman was a huge hit to our bullpen that's been dominant all season long.
Yeah.
Obviously, Loaizaga has struggled pretty much all year. He's been honestly the weak spot of our bullpen.
Yeah.
Which has been super, super surprising due to his, dominance basically last year. He had like did he have a sub 2 ERA or a sub 3 ERA?
He had a sub 2 ERA.
Yeah, he had a sub 2 ERA. Dude was absolutely disgusting last year, but he hasn't been able to find it. So Maybe there is some sort of shoulder issue going on internally that he doesn't really know about. And then Chapman also struggled recently. But we're hoping these struggles are due to these injuries and they can come back strong after a rest. But yeah, the Yankees who are the stigma is we get hurt a lot, and this is like the first sort of instance of that. And then it created like this tidal wave of injuries coming in pretty much right after Sunday. Guys were going down all week. Obviously, the COVID-19 IL guys as well.
Yep.
So I'm trying to think here. What else I can
No,
add to that?
I think you nailed it right there. You're just hoping that Chapman and Loaisiga come back stronger because they've been on a little bit of a slope as of recently, especially with Loaisiga. Chapman was off to a really good start this year, then he kind of fell off. So hopefully, after recovering for a couple of weeks, maybe they can come back stronger.
Yeah, we're hoping that the 15-day IL is more than what their injury requires, and they just get some time to like take a break, step away from the game a little bit, regroup, find themselves, and hopefully they can come back stronger than ever. The good news is for the Yankees that I feel like this is the deepest we've ever been. We have a lot of young guys like Clark Schmidt and JP Sears. We'll talk about both of those guys later. Coming up from AAA, and they're able to fill these roles very, very quickly. So I think that's a plus side for us for sure. And who knows, maybe the Yankees do look for a bullpen guy before the trade deadline. Maybe we do go out and trade a prospect for a dominant bullpen guy. I wouldn't be opposed to it, honestly. No. Because we do have a lot of guys that kind of are hit or miss right now. Are they just off to a good start, or is this who they really are? Like Clay Holmes, is he really a 0.3 ERA pitcher? I have no idea. He hasn't shown us any weakness at all this year, but I don't know that that's going to continue. I really don't.
Yeah. And he's filling out the role as the closer at temporary time really well, in my own opinion. He, has this devastating sinker. I think it's the most devastating sinker in all baseball at this very moment. So hopefully he keeps up with the performance. We definitely need him, especially with the injury bug we've been dealing with the bullpen.
I definitely agree, and I almost hate the term closer. I feel like the game has changed a lot, and I really like how Aaron Boone. There's very few things that I love about Aaron Boone, but honestly, this is one of them. I like Aaron Boone because he throws the best guy for the right situation out in the game, and a lot of the time it works. There are a few times that it doesn't pan out, but that's baseball.
Yes.
I personally think that we have 4 or 5 guys in our bullpen that can go out and close a game depending on the situation. So we really don't have a set closer. I feel like Chapman could go out in the 7th or the 8th inning when he comes back from injury. I think that's how Boone has to look at it. Now you got Clay Holmes who can go in the 9th. Loaisiga could close a game. Clark Schmidt can close a game. He got a save in one of these future games here that I'm going to talk about.
Yep.
But yeah, we have so many guys that can go out there and close games. I hate this closer term. It's going to help our bullpen in the long run, though, especially with Chapman and Loaisiga being down. But yeah, did you have anything else to add onto that Sunday doubleheader or no?
No, I don't think so. I think I just want to top it off with the comments you made about Boone and his philosophy and his bullpen. I agree with you. I think it's great to have that mindset because you're not just like relying on just one guy for that moment in the 9th inning. I think you can just like, go by the stats. Who's had the more competitive advantage stat line against these 3 or 4 batters in our lineup or on the opposing team's lineup. So I think that's a great philosophy to have. And, let's say like Chapman is not capable of like facing up a guy like, let's say, and for the Red Sox, Devers and Bogarts and Story, let's say, Chapman doesn't have a good history behind those guys. And let's say a guy like Loaisiga does, you put Loaisiga in instead because there's no concrete closer. You just go with the best pitcher in that situation.
I completely agree. I think also when you have like a set closer and a set setup guy, I think it almost puts you in handcuffs because it's like, man, I pitched those guys last night. Who the hell am I going to go to close this game?
Right.
But I think when you mix guys up and you pitch guys in different situations, it ups their confidence because they feel that they can pitch in any situation. But it's like, you're the closer. It's like, oh my God, I have to come in like back-to-back days and like show dominance. Otherwise I'm going to get canned. But it's like this situation right here. It's like, okay, I'm coming in for the 7th inning. I'm going to do my job and that's all I can do. Oh, I'm coming in for the 9th. I'm going to do my job and that's all I can do. So I think it's definitely great for a bullpen and quite honestly could be the reason we've been so successful this year instead of years past.
I think it's the reason it kind of tells you how good our bullpen is that you feel
Yeah,
really confident about who to put in any sort of situation. Maybe not a guy like Leadish or maybe even Loaiza in that matter right now, but you could definitely feel confident with the majority of the bullpen and go, I can put you in the seventh, I can put you in the eighth, and I can put you in the ninth.
absolutely. I think some other teams are definitely starting to take notes on that too. I think we're definitely starting to see the traditional closer go down, and I really don't feel like there is a. Honestly, I think the only traditional closer in this league right now is Josh Hader, but that dude's on another level. He can
Yeah,
come in and close any situation.
no,
He every
you're
year he
definitely
has
on
a better
point,
year than the past.
which is crazy because he literally like has like below 1 ERA right
Yeah,
now as we speak. It's just he always tops off. It's like Clayton Kershaw. Like every year you go, in years past you go, there's no way Kershaw can top off his below 2 ERA, can he? Nope, he does. He wins a freaking Cy Young unanimously.
100%.
So,
All
all
right,
right,
what do we think? Moving on to the next.
move on to the next. Yeah, got a lot of games to cover.
All right, moving on to May 23rd, which was Monday. Baltimore beat the Yankees 6-4. This marked the third loss in the row for the Yankees, which is the first time all season long. So it's not too bad, but you start to get worried at this point. It was a really weird game, though, and I'm going to talk about that. So Garrett Cole, he pitched 8 innings, gave up 7 hits, 5 earned runs, but he also struck out 11 batters. And honestly, I watched that game. I thought that was some of the best stuff I've seen from Cole all season long, but he still gave up 5 runs. It was very, very confusing. He had that one really bad inning.
Yeah,
And it just seemed like no matter what he threw, Baltimore was locked on. And then after that, they weren't locked on anymore. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
I know.
Um, it's like they almost handed off the controller to someone else. Like I don't really know what to say.
Yeah,
Um, but and then for Baltimore, the starting pitcher was Jordan Lyles. He went 6.2 deep, 5 hits, 3 earned, 8 strikeouts, no walks. Offensively for the Yankees, Aaron Judge went 2 for 3, 2 home runs. He's been continuing his tear. He had one in the first inning and one in the 5th inning against Lyles. So that marked 3 RBIs. He also walked, so he could have been 3 for 4 in the game. Some history, though. This was his 20th career multi-home run game, and the only player in baseball history that has more multi-home run games in that time span is Ralph Kiner, who had 24 games with more than 1 home run. So that's pretty cool. Also for the Yankees, Trevino had an RBI single in the second. But yeah, that 3rd inning for Cole was rough. Chirinos had an RBI double. Hayes had a 2 RBI single. Mountcastle with the fielder's choice RBI. And then in the 6th inning, Urias had a solo home run off of Cole. He went 3 for 4 in the game. And this, after that game, was when Donaldson got fined and suspended for the Jackie comment. So, Andrew, take it away.
I think the first thing I want to bring up is Jordan Lyles. I think people should start to realize how good of a pitcher he is. He kind of gets the Zach Gallen treatment, like in Arizona. He's a very in the public, in the mainstream like baseball news. He's really not that well known. He should get more rep, honestly. He pitches like an all-star, but honestly, he might not even be an all-star this year. So he's definitely getting the Zach Gallen treatment. So if you ever get a chance to see the Orioles on TV against the Yankees, watch out for him. He's got some pretty nasty stuff. And I also want to talk about Cole as well. Yeah, I've watched the same game as well. He had the best stuff of his of the entire season. It's weird to say that because he gave up 5 runs. His fastball, his slider, his cutter, his knuckle curve, they were on point, man. He was getting some swords out there. Like he was looking like the guy that we paid him to be for 36 million per year. But unfortunately, just like baseball is never a guarantee. So gives up 5 runs in that one, not 5 runs. Was it 5? Yeah, it was 5 runs. My bad. In that little time span, but punched out 11 guys in that 8-inning stretch. So very unfortunate, but it's kind of weird to say this, but probably his best game of the year. I know it's weird to say that because he just gave up 5 runs. And besides that, though, not really much to talk about. Nobody was injured. Donaldson was suspended for 1 game about the incident. And then I think I also want to talk about Judge. I saw a pretty interesting stat line not that long ago after the game. Judge is in a very exclusive club in Yankees lore. He is, I think, third all time in multi-home run games, right behind Mantle and Babe Ruth. So kind of shows you the dominance of gotta pull up Judge statue. Um, just know that you have that. But yeah, he's in a very exclusive club, and I think it tells you how special a player Judge really is.
100%. I'm gonna go back to Cole real quick. He started off the season very, very rocky, and we were starting to think like, oh god, here we go again. Spider Tax coming out, and he's struggling. But the past 5 starts before this game, he had like a 1.3 ERA or something crazy like that in that 5-game time span. And honestly, like it did jump for this game, but he still looks lights out. Like honestly, like I don't think I've ever seen a start quite like this before. Like giving up 5 runs, but also striking out 11. How rarely does that happen?
Yeah.
I mean, there's not quite anything like that. And only 7 hits for 5 earned runs too. Like that's really not that much in perspective.
No.
Like, yeah, when you take away the 11 strikeouts, it's like, oh man, he gave up 7 hits, 5 earned runs. But then you're like, wait, 11 strikeouts. It's like, are you on or are you not on? It's hard to say.
But as someone that watched the game, I definitely would say he had a really good outing, except for that one inning. I know this sounds really weird because when people look at a stat line outside of watching the game, they just go, "Oh, he gave up 5 runs overall." No, it was just like he had 7 great innings, but it's just had that one bad inning, and Orioles were on top of everything he was throwing.
But and honestly, that showed the true like ace in him, though, how he was able to bounce back and be completely dominant after that.
Right.
I don't remember the box score, but I don't even think he gave up really a hit after that. If he did, it was only like 1 or 2 singles or something like that. But he had 0 walks, and for Cole, that's absolutely incredible. Yes. So honestly, he's not going to give up a 5 spot every single game. But if he pitches like this every single game for the rest of the season, he's going to be very, very good, and he's going to be very, very good for our rotation.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about some other guys here shortly. But honestly, I don't really have too much for that Monday game other than it was our 3rd loss in a row.
Yeah.
And we had to do something about it.
Yeah, definitely significance over there because this is the first time we've been on a losing stretch. It's been off to a hot start this season. It was bound to happen at some point. Every team is vulnerable of losing a stretch of those games. So I'm not really worried about it. I don't know about you. It's just part of baseball.
It is part of baseball. I'm excited to watch Cole for the rest of the season. He looked lights out. Mm-hmm. I think he's only going to get better from here.
I think so too. Yeah.
So moving on to Tuesday, the 24th, the Yankees won 7-6 against Baltimore in 11 innings, in extra innings. That was the Yankees' 30th win of the season, and they were the first team to get there, I think, right?
Yeah, they were the very first team. Yep.
First team to get to the 30 win total. So for the Yankees, Jordan Montgomery pitched 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned, 5 Ks, no walks. And then Bruce Zimmerman pitched for Baltimore, 6.1 innings pitched, 6 hits, 4 earned, 5 strikeouts, 0 walks. He gave up 4 solo home runs, which honestly, as a pitcher, you got to hate that. You know, you're pitching pretty much everything good, only giving up 6 hits total and 4 of them home runs. It's got to be awful.
Yeah, sounds like another day for Garrett Cole. You know, gives up like
no, actually,
yeah, like it's because no knock on Cole, but he gives up a lot of solo shots, and this is like the Garrett Cole treatment. You know, he had a pretty good outing, but a lot of solo shots.
Yeah, I think when you have that that sort of high spin rate, I think Bruce Zimmerman also has a very, very high. It's called spin rate, right?
Yeah, it's RPM spin rate.
RPM, yeah. So moving on here, Michael King had a blown lead. He only went 0.2 innings, gave 2 hits, 3 earned runs, no strikeouts, and a walk before he was pulled. But then after that, the Yankee bullpen came in and shut things down. Litke, Holmes, Peralta, and Schmidt came in 4.1 innings pitched, only 1 hit, and they gave up 1 run. It was unearned. It was due to Michael King. 3 strikeouts, no walks. But then for Baltimore, Keegan Aiken came in 2.1 innings pitched, 3 walks. He struck out 6 Yankees and gave up 0 hits. That was absolutely dominant.
Yeah.
Stan went over 2 in the game, struck out swinging. This whole past week, he was pretty off compared to what he's been doing all season. He was hitting over 300 going into Monday, I believe, and then dipped here on Tuesday or Wednesday below 300. He's closer to 280 now, I think. So he definitely went on a pretty bad stretch. Hopefully he can get back to that. He is injured, but Andrew will talk about that later. For Baltimore, they had that 7th inning mash against Michael King and Jordan Montgomery. Hayes hit a solo home run off of Monty, and then Rougned Odor, former Yankee, came in, hit a 3-run home run off of Michael King. But it could have been due to a bad pitch selection, which was a fastball, low middle, which is Rougned Odor's spot. He's got that uppercut swing. You just don't throw it. I don't know if it was a mislocation or what's going on with King, but he looked pretty good outside of that. For the Yankees, Rizzo had a solo home run in the first. Torres, he had 2 solo home runs, both off of Lyles. IKF came in with a game-tying single in the 11th, but the story of the day was Jose Trevino, Trevi Day. 3 for 4 on the day, solo home run in the 3rd, game-tying single in the 7th, walk-off single in the 11th. It was his late father's birthday, and what was cool to see was most of the team stayed in the dugout to watch that post-game interview. And then I pulled this quote from the ESPN game recap I wanted to share with you guys. Jose Trevino, this is what he said. My dad was a huge Yankees fan. He would always put me in these scenarios. He always said, 9th inning, down 1, need a base hit here to tie the game or win the game at Yankee Stadium. It's just so cool. That's what being a Yankee is all about. Jose Trevino definitely fills that role. And then LeMahieu was scratched from the start, just half hour before the game with left wrist discomfort. But Boone said it shouldn't be long term. Take it away, Andrew.
Yeah, so I want to go back to that Stan at bat. So on the second at bat, Stan struck out swinging against Zimmerman. Not Zimmerman, my bad. It was Zimmerman, my bad. And the way he swung the ball, he kind of twisted his ankle for, like trying to swing out the fences sort of thing. So he was on his knees, but going to the bench, he was very limping pretty hard. And so what basically ended up happening was that Stan got replaced by Florio for the rest of the game. And then after the game, the club officially placed Stan on a 10-day IL for right ankle inflammation. Maybe it could be like the same treatment as Chapman and the Wisen in that standard. He was off to a pretty good start this year. In fact, he was let's be honest here, probably hit his most efficient hitting stat line in his entire career. But then the last 2 or 3 series, he hasn't really figured it out. I guess pitchers are starting to attack his weak side a lot more than they usually do. Maybe he can come out of those, that weekend and a half as a better ball player. We'll see how that turns out. And besides that, though, yeah, Trevino had the biggest game in probably his entire life. Maybe he'll be capable of doing more. I thought it was pretty cool of the Yankees bench just staying there and waiting, taking his time to relish the moment. He was even crying when he was being interviewed. And so it was a very, big moment, as a Yankees fan, that's your biggest dream come true, walk it off at Yankee Stadium and, have, the fans roaring for your name and all that. So I thought it was pretty cool. I thought the fact that, Judge was right beside him, right on the entryway of the bench. I thought that was really cool as well. Just a really wholesome moment. Very, baseball is beautiful sort of moment for, everyone involved. Not for the Orioles, obviously.
Definitely. I think that just that whole moment was cool. I mean, that's what it is to be, a Yankee. Just moments like that. I just feel like it's all class there. And I feel like a lot of people that come to the Yankees are like, oh, I was a Yankees fan growing up, or, my family were Yankees fans. It's just such a great fan base. There are a lot of bandwagon fans, but there are also a lot of non-bandwagon fans that are there pretty much for life. And it's just a big moment for them to be a Yankee, and especially for Trevino to have that after his, father passed away. That was just so cool to see. I do want to talk about the catcher position, though, for the Yankees, because we were questioning it going into the season. We didn't really know what to expect out of Jose Trevino. We knew that we were losing a little bit of offense with Gary Sanchez leaving, but honestly, not really. I mean, another guy that hits 180 with, 30 home runs is not really what I'm looking for, especially when he's a liability behind the plate. But this season, what we can say, and honestly could be the reason for a lot of our pitching success, is Trevino as well as Higashioka behind the plate are extremely good catchers defensively, arguably top 5 in the league, I would almost say, both of them, from a defensive standpoint, but they're both able to throw out guys. Not a lot of guys steal against the Yankees. In terms of framing pitches, it's absolutely unbelievable. But then offensively, I feel like Trevino has played incredible. I mean, if he finishes this season with a line of like, a 250 average, 15 to 20 home runs, I'm cool with that from catcher. We don't need an offensive catcher. We finally have defense on our side.
Yeah.
And that's what I love to see as a Yankees fan, because it's been a while.
The other stat I really want to talk about is, catchers, the average batting average for catchers throughout the season across the league. It's only 215. I know we critique, guys like Higashioka and even Ben Revere, who was playing for the Yankees just a little bit, but hasn't played a lot. Even Trevino as well. We rely on more on their catching abilities, but honestly, for where they're at hitting wise, I know Higashioka is hitting below like 190 at the moment. We don't, I think it's kind of unfair for us to say, hey, we need you to go out and bat 250 or 240 for us. I think they're good enough as they are. We don't need to go out in the trade deadline and get someone like a William Contreras or a guy like Sean Murphy or anything like that. I think we're good as the way we are. I think we should just look at it as we got 2 great catchers than 2, mediocre hitters.
Yeah, I saw last night in the game, I overheard Michael Kay saying stuff about Mike Zunino and what he really brings to the table. Mike Zunino is one of the best catchers in the league all around, if not the best catcher in the league. I think he brings very good defense behind the plate, obviously, but on top of that, he doesn't hit for average, but he brings a lot of pop, and he can come in and hit like a 2-3 run home run at pretty much any time at the bottom of the order, which is extremely valuable. And I think it's starting to change the game in terms of catcher. There are anomalies like, I'll say like JT Realmuto. I feel like he's probably the best catcher in the league right now, overall. Obviously, there's Salvador Perez, but he's not amazing defensively. He's just a crazy offensive bat. And then there's another anomaly in Adley Rutschman, but we don't even know that he's going to pan out to be, Posey 2.0. That's a switch hitter. Because I think he's only hitting like 260 so far this season. What'd you say?
130.
He's hitting 130. I mean, it's still early, and he still has a lot to figure out. This is first stint, but
exactly, yeah. He was drafted number 1 overall in 2019, coming out of Oregon State, so he has plenty of time to figure it out. You're not going to come into the big leagues and go, I'm going to start dominating. I mean, unless you're Ken Griffey Jr. in that regard or A-Rod. But yeah, Rutschman has plenty of time. And like you said about anomalies, there's definitely unique players in the league like JT Realmuto, Yadier Molina, Murphy's even a unique one as well. But honestly, man, like in my own humble opinion, I really don't think we need to go out in the trade deadline and get someone like a Contreras, like a Realmuto. I just think we just don't really need it. I think we're a complete team as it is. I know a lot of Yankee fans, they want to get the big guy in trade deadline because, that's how Yankee fans are. But in the retrospect, we have a core that we like. I like the whole chemistry between Trevino and Higashioka.
Very valuable.
I don't want to, break that up if I'm Boone.
I don't either. I think it's so great that you can have 2 guys kind of like split time. I think Trevino's starting to take more time from Higashioka, but they're there to support each other. At the end of the day, they both just want to ring. They don't care how they get it. Right. And I think having them split time is not only going to help injury-wise, but I think it's also going to help the team out in general because you get a different look from both guys too.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
All right. So I don't have too much more to say about that game. This next game is going to be super, super quick because it was just a 2-0 win. This was the Wednesday game. The Yankees beat Baltimore 2-0. Pitching was absolutely crazy, honestly, from both sides. So JP Sears, with his first start of the year, 5 innings pitched. He got the win, 3 hits, giving up 0 earned, 5 strikeouts, and 2 walks. An absolutely phenomenal Yankee debut. And for Baltimore, Tyler Wells pitched. He got the loss, 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned, 2 strikeouts, 0 walks. The story was the bullpen. The bullpen domination from the Yankees yet again, despite not having too much rest the past couple of days. Ron Marinaccio, 2 innings pitched, 3 Ks, and a bunch of zeros in the other pitching categories. Licky came in, 0.2 innings pitched, 1K, 1 walk. Castro came in for an out. He got a strikeout. And then Clay Holmes came in for the save, pitching 1 inning, giving up 2 hits with 1 strikeout and 0 walks. He continues his domination this season. Miguel Andujar gave the only Yankee RBI of the game. He went 2 for 3. He had an RBI single in the fourth. And then shortly after that, Adley Rutschman, he had a throwing error, which gave a run scored. And Holmes was quoted saying, "I think we've pushed each other. It's fun to see guys come through." And I think just the chemistry that this Yankee team has, top to bottom, from pitching staff. I mean, you see like Garrett Cole and Nestor Cortez pulling each other up. Like, there really is no true ace on the team. They're just there to be there. And I think the mindset is very, very clear for this team. And I think that's what's making us so dominant. Andrew, take it away.
No, definitely. The biggest storyline is just JP Sears and Mariaco, two guys that are from Scranton, due to the fact that a lot of our pitchers are now injured. JP Sears, he has some pretty darn good stuff, man. I mean, when I watched his debut, that was the one thing I really noticed it for a guy that just came out to the MLB. He's got some pretty gross, spin rate on his sliders and all that. It's pretty gross. Mariaco, that was the guy I was really surprised about. He was just called up as well. For someone that was just called up too, he was really dominant as well. I'm not too sure if it's because the O's scouting department just didn't scout enough for Mariaco, but either way, he had a phenomenal outing as well. Bleedish, a guy that we critique a lot this year, probably one of the guys outside of Loizna and others as well that we critique outside of our dominant bullpen. He had a pretty good outing. I think it's a good bounce back as well. Hopefully that keeps up. Maybe it's a trend here on out that we can see from Leadage throughout the season, going back to his 2021 form. And I think another thing I really want to talk about is Andujar. He hasn't really been mentioned as much, but he's starting to look like the guy that we've known to see him from 2019. I don't know if you feel like that way as well. He's hitting close to a batting average of 300. From guys that are injured right now, like Stan and Gal, even when he was on the COVID list. And Duhar, he's turned to be a really reliable replacement for those guys when they go down. I hope this keeps up, and I hope he goes back to his 2019 form and keeps it up and be more consistent about it.
100%. I think the key here is depth from top to bottom. I think that the Yankees have probably 20 good pitchers. Like, their top 20 pitchers could all come in and be major league ready. They have guys like Florial and Andujar that can come up. They also have Oswald Peraza, who will probably get called up after the arbitration deadline at some point if we need help up here. The Yankees are just so deep, and when guys get hurt, even as many guys that have been hurt, we've had a guy come up and fill the spot immediately, and we've been pretty much the same team. It's absolutely unbelievable. And I'm definitely going to talk about this in this next burn that I do. But yeah, Andujar, he hasn't really gotten too much of a shot recently because I feel like every time he's been called up, he's struggled. But this might be the time where he finally gets a bench role on the team. Maybe takes one from Marwin Gonzalez potentially. I would love to see Andujar be his former self. I mean, with Donaldson down, with Gallo really not playing himself, with Hicks being all over the place this year, Andujar could definitely fill that role. And I think left field, he was built to play. I mean, he struggles on the hot corner, but I feel like his defense over in left field looks really, really good, actually. So he's not a liability out there either. We know what his bat brings to the table, so why not leave him up in the majors? I hope when guys start coming back, they don't send Andujar down, but I just feel like we're so deep that it's just going to happen. I hope these AAA guys understand that they're going to get more opportunities throughout the season when guys go down. And they're also very, very valuable to the organization. I hope it doesn't mentally tear them down that they're getting sent down to Scranton.
No, definitely. I think Andujar, for instance, like, he needed the trip down to Scranton for quite some time. The last time we saw him in left field, it did not look pretty at all. Dating back to 2021, 2020, they were trying to experiment with him in left field, and there are some plays that he made that were like, oh man, why is he playing left field? You should stay in third base and shortstop. Now he's starting to pick up the hot spots as well. He's starting to, make it look like it's more routine out there. And besides that, though, I wouldn't be if you're in Scranton right now. Just know your name might just get called up. This is part of the Yankees of who they are. They are a team that's going to experience injury bugs. We've known this since 2018, 2017. That's why the 2019 team, in my humble opinion, was like the best well-rounded team we've ever had with guys like Encarnacion, Cameron Maben, Talkman. It was like the next man up mentality sort of thing. And we're having like the exact same mentality in this 2022 squad.
Which it's weird to see because for those of you who don't know, I have a internship currently with the Rochester Red Wings, which is the AAA ball club for the Nationals. So I have seen the Rail Riders come to town for a series a couple weeks ago. And honestly, the Rail Riders aren't that great this year, which is so weird to see because of how deep the Yankees are. Like a lot of these guys that we're seeing these past couple days, I watched in AAA just a couple weeks ago, but the Rail Riders are not that good overall. I think they're one of the worst teams in the International League record-wise so far.
Right.
So that's definitely crazy to see as well. But I mean, as long as they keep producing in the majors, that's what I care about, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It doesn't matter what you do in AAA. It matters what you do in the majors.
100%.
Yeah.
So I'm glad guys are making the most out of their opportunities. But that's really all I have to say about that Wednesday game. Mm-hmm. One final game. We won the Orioles series 2-1. We got one more final game here. May 26th. This was last night. The Yankees beat Tampa Bay 7-2. Our first game against Tampa Bay all season, and it's almost June. We have played Baltimore 13 times this year.
I know. It's so weird, man.
We had a couple of series. Like last week, we played Chicago and Chicago. Or no, we played Chicago and Chicago. We went home to play Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And then we went home to play Chicago, and then we went away to Baltimore. Like, it was the weirdest thing. Like, we played the same two teams back to back. But moving on. So 7-2 win for the Yankees. Nasty Nestor. 8 innings pitched. He actually went out for the 9th and got pulled. He only gave up 4 hits, 1 earned run, and that honestly was Peralta's fault. But it is credited to Nestor because he gave up a hit before he was pulled.
Yeah.
But he only had, I think he had 5 strikeouts. He only gave up 1 walk through 109 pitches, which I think might be his career high. It's been crazy how he's been able to develop, but we'll talk about that in a second here. For Tampa Bay, Ryan Yarbrough, he got the loss, 5.1 innings pitched, 2 hits, 2 earned, 3 runs total, 5 strikeouts, and a walk. And then it was Wandy Peralta, who came out for the 9th inning, gave up 2 hits, 1 earned run, should have been 2. I don't think that's Nestor's fault. Struck out 1, didn't walk anybody, but he did have that balk that moved 2 runners into scoring position, which ended up both scoring in the 9th inning. Yankees were scoreless until the 6th, though. Judge had that RBI single, and Duhar had an infield single, which gave him an RBI, but a throwing error brought home another runner brought in a second run. But then in the 9th inning, the Yankees got a few more runs. Judge had a sac fly, and then Rizzo had a 2 RBI double, which made the Yankees score 7-0. And then it wasn't until the 9th inning that the Rays scored. And honestly, they didn't look great all day long. Nestor was absolutely incredible once again. Andrew, take it away.
First and foremost, we got to talk about Matt Carpenter. He was just signed to a major league deal not that long ago before the game started. So it's a major league deal. We don't know if he's going to actually stay on the team.
I thought he looked good, by the way. Sorry to cut you off, but I thought he looked
good. No, he did. No, he was looking really good for a guy that's, he was hit by a pitch, but he was also taking in a lot of pitches as well during that game and, made his mark as a Yankee by producing a run. After the game, when they won, this is what Carpenter said. He's like, quote, "If they wanted me to load the bags on the plane, that's what I'll do. I'm excited to put a Yankees uniform on and be part of the best team in baseball right now. I'm just fired up to be here, wherever that world looks like." And it's just, I think that shows like a guy like Matt Carpenter, who was part of an organization that won 2 World Series during his time span, that he's fired up to be a Yankee. I honestly think we need a guy like him on the team at the moment. I think he brings in a presence in the locker room that, he's been there, he's done that, he's been in the World Series. Maybe he can, lend a hand to a guy that, might be struggling at the plate, get his insight. And then another big thing that happened right before the game started was 45 minutes before the game. Hicks was completely scratched off from the lineup, and he was replaced by Andor. I'll be honest with you, probably a blessing in disguise the way that Hicks has been playing. No knock on Hicks, but it's kind of the truth. He said in an interview before yesterday, not yesterday, 2 days ago, that he felt tightness in his right hamstring and he couldn't run really full speed. But he is expected to return tonight on the 27th. That's when we're recording this, so maybe we'll see him tonight. Maybe we'll just see Andujar instead because he's been, let's be honest here, the better baseball player. And then another big news, in my opinion, JP Sears, he was sent down to AAA even after having a pretty good, phenomenal performance, his debut. It's kind of like the same treatment with Clark Schmidt. You look at it like this, as much of a bummer it is for JP Sears to go down, that just shows you how good of our pitching is right now.
No, 100%. And with Nestor leading the way as well. I mean, him and Cole have been very, very good all season. It's cool to see that dynamic between them. They seem pretty close. I feel like every time they're in the dugout together, they're always talking about something. Or when Cole's not pitching, he's helping out Nestor with things, showing him things that he's noticing, and vice versa. Goes a lot like this clubhouse is absolutely incredible. I'm so happy to be a Yankees fan this year. They just seem to all be really close, which is really cool to see.
Yeah.
But Nestor Cortez pitched an amazing game, and that's what it came down to.
Definitely.
But my biggest takeaway from this game was you got no LeMahieu, you got no Hicks, you got no Stanton, you got no Loaizaga, you got no Chapman, you got no Green, you got no, who else wasn't there? Donaldson wasn't there. I think Higgy wasn't there still. No, Higgy played last night.
Higgy did play last night, yep.
I'm trying to think who else was down. Just so many, let's put it this way, so many injuries. The lineup card was weird. Judge led off the game.
No, Higgy did not. Higgy didn't play last night. It was just Trevino.
Yeah, the lineup card was absolutely absurd. Judge was leading off. We had Torres hitting third. I think Rizzo hit second. And Duhar was batting cleanup.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Matt Carpenter hit somewhere in like the 7.
He was the 8th hole guy.
He was the 8th hole, and then I also think Gallo hit 5th. He did not play well. I think did he get the golden sombrero?
He did get the golden sombrero, unfortunately.
Yeah.
3 strikeouts in his first 3 at bats, and then he popped up in his 4th at bat. And then Marwin Gonzalez was the 9th hole guy.
Yeah.
And he actually had a pretty good game too, Gonzalez.
Yeah, it was the bottom half of the lineup that really scored most of the runs. They came up, and honestly, it almost makes it smart to lead off Judge if you think about it, because the bottom half of the lineup has been the only ones hitting, I feel like, recently.
Yeah, I know.
It's like you have them getting hits, in like the 3rd inning, then you have Judge coming up. It's like, oh God, what do I do? But Hicks was supposed to lead off the game. Do we really think this game goes the same way? I don't know.
I don't think so, honestly, because, Judge got 2 ribbies in that game, and without the contributions of Carpenter and Gonzalez, I don't think we'd be talking about the same, productivity of that offense. Probably instead of 7-2, we'd probably be talking about 3-2.
No, 100%. I think overall it was just cool to see us absolutely blow out the Rays it should have been a 7-0 shutout. It really should have been, but they had to bring Wandy in. Nestor had 109 pitches. You couldn't make him go more than that. You don't want to risk injury.
No, definitely.
But that balk kind of hurt. I don't know if you watched the game, but that balk was kind of stupid.
It was stupid. On Peralta's part, or
no, just in general, it didn't really look like a balk.
Oh yeah, I know. Balks are very controversial because what is considered an actual balk? I mean, if you ever seen like a balk controversy happen unfolding, by fans and like John Boy Medium, there's really not a clear distinctive of what a balk is. It's more like an opinion on.
It's subjective, 100%.
It's very subjective. Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks that it's credited towards Nestor, but honestly, he doesn't really seem the guy like the kind of guy to be worried by that. He was just there on the bench, kind of like vibing. Honestly, he's like, I just pitched 8 great innings. I really don't care as long as Wandy's able to close it, which he was able to.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this game like it's a 7-0 win for the Yankees, which is huge, especially against Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Which we have a very big series against them, 4-game series, and then we get the day off on Monday. Mm-hmm. Honestly, the only one I'm really concerned about is Shane McClanahan, and that's on Sunday against Severino. So that matchup I'm excited to see. Yeah, I really don't have anything else to add to this game. Do you have anything to really add to this, or should we wrap up?
You know what? Honestly, I do have something to add. And
Yeah, go ahead.
it's one of the Rays players, dude. Like, if you ever did you watch the one last night's game, right?
I watched kind of bits and pieces. I was kind of busy in between,
Yeah.
but I did have it on in the background.
So there's this guy named Ralph Garza Jr., right?
Mhm.
And this is pretty unique. And I want to bring him up because of what he was doing. So yeah, his stat line's not really that great. He pitched two in the third. He gave up 2 hits, 2 runs, and 2 walks. But the thing that really stuck out to me the most is how he approached against hitters. So against righties, he was throwing sidearm action. Well, it was kind of like Trevor Rogers sort of like delivery. But then when he was facing against lefties, he was throwing overhead. It was pretty nuts. I was like, I've never seen anything like this before. I thought that was pretty cool to mention that, even if he didn't really have a good outing. I thought that was pretty unique. It like really stuck out to me the most out of everything in the game.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen Nestor Cortez mix up arm angles, but that's kind of like spur of the moment, kind of like dependent on the pitch.
Yeah.
But no, Ralph Garza, like to have a completely different delivery to right-handed versus left-handed hitters. Maybe it's a strategy. I mean, it might honestly work. It didn't work great last night because he gave up a couple of runs, but no, I definitely agree with you. That was pretty cool to see. I did catch that.
Yeah, I was like, that threw me off so much. I was like, I've never seen this before, and that's
Yep.
part of the reason why he's up in the majors, to be honest. So we'll see how that. Yeah, deception is. Yeah, guys are starting to pick up the fact that it's not, the velocity. I know we talk about this so many times, but deception is the big part of the game too. It's not just about the velocity. It's not about how nasty your breaking pitches are. There's a third element, and that's delivery and deception.
100%. It's like, I feel like a couple years ago, we're talking about, you need to throw upper 90s triple digits, but it's like now hitters are starting to adapt to hit that. Yeah. It's like a lot of times these guys throwing 100 are giving up a crap ton of home runs. And now this year, it seems that deception is playing a key role. Nestor Cortez being honestly the Cy Young candidate. He's been, Justin Verlander's been pretty great as well. Actually, I shouldn't say that. He's been amazing so far this year after coming off an injury.
Vintage Justin Verlander.
Oh, absolutely. I will say, if him and Nestor have similar stat lines by the end of the year, I think they do give the Cy Young to Nestor because Verlander already has 2 Cy Youngs.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, so I don't think they'd give it to him a third time as long as the numbers aren't, too vast between them. But yeah, did you have anything else to add, or should we wrap up?
I don't think so. No. I think we covered everything on the spot.
I think so too. We went an hour long this time. I really hope that this video is helpful for some of you casual fans. Honestly, I don't have the time to sit down and watch every single game. Games are 3 hours long. Yep. I'm over at my internship for a lot of times. So a lot of times I'll have it on in the background while I'm doing stuff over there or whatnot. But yeah, I hope this breakdown was helpful. I want to try and do this. I don't know if you agree, Andrew. I want to try and do this once a week. Just get this week in review out for you guys. You casual fans, just tell you what's going on. And yeah, while the Yankees continue to get injured here, we continue to win games and find ways to win games.
Definitely.
That's super great to see. But thank you guys for watching the French-Hoock Connection. I'm Frenchy. With me, as always, is Andrew Hook.
And that's it.
We'll catch you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the pod. And peace.
Peace, guys.
Here, I'm going to wave my hands. All right. I know what I edited this part out.